Thank you so much for turning into Beyond Should. I'm happy to have you here. I'm Lucy Reynolds, your host and the founder of the Murmuration Collective, where we empower women for lasting transformation in all facets of their life, both professionally and personally. And we get it. This is a dynamic and challenging time we're living through. And if you're feeling frustrated or out of control with your current work situation or life in general, and feel like something is just waiting for you just beyond your reach or clarity, then perhaps you might want to consider taking on a coaching engagement with us at the Murmuration Collective. We support women on the daily to wade through their confusion and find what they seek in the next chapters of their personal and professional lives. Our contact details are in the show notes. We look forward to meeting you and hearing what's going on for you. Now let's tune in together to this next episode of Beyond Should.
We were raising about $2 million, and a friend of mine, a male friend of mine, said, $2 million, that's a pass the hat around conversation. Meaning he'd be with his guy friends and be like, hey, I'm working on this cool company. Everybody want to contribute? And he's like, everybody takes out their checkbooks and writes a $50,000 check. He's like, can't you just ask your friends? And I was like horrified. Like, I would never ask my friends. One, it would take so much for me to just like call my college friends, but it's just a completely different conversation, I think, for men and for women.
Hi, I'm Lucy Reynolds, and welcome to Beyond Should, a podcast for women reinventing their lives, their careers, and owning their power. This is a show where you'll gain insights on how to stop doing what you should do and finally start naming, claiming, and pursuing what you deeply want. On this week's episode of Beyond Should, I sat down with Michelle Jacobs to talk about women's health, menopause, aging, and why so many women have been taught to feel disconnected from their bodies during their midlife. We discussed reinvention, stepping into leadership later in life, and why women need to stop shrinking and start recognizing the power they already have. A bit about Michelle. Michelle Jacobs is the co-founder and COO of Womaness. Womaness is modernizing age through education, inspiration, and clean solutions formulated to meet the needs of your changing body. Created by women, for women, they offer clinically and doctor-tested supplements, sexual wellness, and skincare products that help you navigate through hot flashes, changing skin, vaginal dryness, sleepless nights, and more, empowering you to live your life fully and age well. And I love the tagline, wellness, skin, and body care by women, for women. Experience required. Well, this 54-year-old founder of the Murmuration Collective is definitely experienced in perimenopause and menopause, and I am so thankful that you have created something so powerful in Womaness for me and for many others so that we are more educated, more informed, we have products that we need, and we have a community that can support us. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Michelle, I so enjoyed getting to know you through a panel. We were both at South by Southwest, and we were at a whole day event called Women Future Forward, and you were on a panel, and I was like, ooh, I gotta meet this woman. So I like stalked her, you all. She was about to leave and I was like, hi, I'm Lucy Reynolds with the Murmuration Collective. And we have a podcast called Beyond Should. And I really think that your message and how you brought Womaness to market and what you're all about would be really enticing for our listeners to hear. Would you join me? And she said, send me an email. So I did. And here we are. Thank you, Michelle, so much for joining us today.
No, it's great. And I'm glad you stopped me walking out of that event. It was great.
A little bit of inspiration, ladies. Go after what you want, and you never know. You certainly the worst that could have happened was you said no, and you said yes. So thank you. So Michelle, could you just give us a quick rundown of sort of how you got to this moment, and then let's talk about a little bit about why women know so little about our bodies and how you had to solve that. So
Sure.
Who are you and how'd you get here?
Who am I?
Who are you?
Well, I am in my mid-50s. I just to quickly give a little background on how I got here. I started in digital marketing way, way, way back. Went to business school, worked at Pfizer Consumer Healthcare for a bunch of years. Spent the bulk of my career at Time Inc. I worked for Real Simple magazine, which
Mm.
is interesting as I started Womaness because that reader and that customer is so who our customer is today. But I loved Real Simple. That was sort of the highlight of my career.
Such a great pub. I loved it.
Yes, I loved it. And then spent about 3 years at Home Shopping Network right after Real Simple. And I had a very, very good friend who became my co founder, Sally Mueller. Sally worked at Target for 25 years and then worked at a number of other brands that developed brands, developed product, and brought them to large big box retailers like Target, Walmart, etc. I had met Sally somewhere around 2007 or so when I was pitching Real Simple to Target. So a long, long time ago. And we stayed friends and we always kind of like just talked about our careers together. We both sort of always had that like entrepreneurial edge, even within our big corporate jobs. We were always talking about cool new things coming down and things that that inspired us. And I was sort of starting to turn 50. She was already in her 50s. And we were having a lot of conversations around the fact that we had created all these brands, we had done all this stuff, but here we were. There was no products that were inspiring to us. Nothing really seemed that interesting out there. We didn't understand what was going on with our bodies. We didn't understand perimenopause, menopause, all the things. And we all this new stuff was coming out for millennials at the time, and this was around the 2019 2020. And we said, like, why is there nothing talking to women like us? So we did research across the country. We literally stood in Targets in Wisconsin, in Minneapolis, in LA, in New York, in Dallas, talked to women that we encountered, and we found that everyone felt the same way we did. Like, why is there nothing out here for us? So we created Womaness really to address the lack of quality product, the lack of education, and community. So we felt like we really needed products across all the categories that we could possibly address, whether it was skincare, supplements, or sexual wellness. We wanted it surrounded by expert information. So tell me why I feel this way. Why is my hair thinning? Why is my skin changing? Why do I have vaginal dryness? Why can't I sleep at night? And then also build community around it. So women had each other to talk to. And so we launched Womaness in 2021, March of 2021, in the height of COVID. It was great. Um, and
You are
so
not for the faint of heart.
no, this whole experience is not for the faint of heart. But we launched then on our own site and on Amazon. And 5 years later, we're now at Ulta Beauty, and we launched at Walmart last year. And part of our whole mission is to be affordable and accessible. That's a really, really important piece of who we are as a brand. So going into Walmart was really a major milestone for us because we really felt like we did not want to be premium priced. We didn't want to be exclusive or really wanted all women to be able to find our brand at the time when she needed it.
I love that. I have a quick question though, before we kind of dive into what you've created. Can you just talk about, because I think there's probably women who are listening. I know many of my clients are like this, the entrepreneurial edge that both
Yeah.
you and Sally, you recognize that in each other. And I think that a lot of us have these ideas and we're brainstorming and we're, thinking, and what is, if you could tease this out, name an entrepreneurial edge and let's bring it to, I always say with my clients, we go from that, try to take the subconscious and make it conscious because I want women to recognize this in themselves
Mm-hmm.
and then also to find partners. A lot of people say, and we're going to get to this about you and Sally in a minute, is I don't want to do it alone. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to do it
Mm-hmm.
alone. So let's talk about entrepreneurial edge. What does that mean to you? What does that look like?
You know, that's a really hard thing to pinpoint.
I'll help you because I
I
didn't think of myself that way. I didn't think of myself that way. And then all of a sudden I realized like it's in the creation, it's in the trust and self and like tinkering and curiosity.
Yeah, I actually think it's two things. The first is experience, and I'm often shocked when I meet like 24 or 26-year-olds who are trying to do what we're doing, and they're just like so confident and going forward. And maybe it's because they don't know how hard it
Yeah,
might
bless
be.
them.
I think I have had kind of a very twisty turning career. I had a lot of opportunities. I always trying to find something new in all my jobs that I ever had. So I always like sort of raised my hand for, oh, I'll try that. I'll figure that out. A new technology, opening a warehouse, moving. So, like I was always that person that wanted to learn something new. So being able to make the decision to start Womaness, I was able to rely on a lot of the experience I had. I knew I had a lot of experience. I knew how to open a warehouse. I created product. I've done this. I've done that. So that was one thing. I had confidence in the experience I had had, which I think for many women, they should look back on their careers and say, wow, like I've done so much. And also, I say to this a lot to like my own kids, nothing is that hard. We're not brain surgeons over here. Like you can figure it out. You can ask people. You have a huge network of people to turn to. So I think relying on my experience, my network, and the fact that I've been able to figure things out along the way was one piece. But I think the other side, which is a little bit harder to pinpoint, is having that entrepreneurial spirit, I guess. Like I would call it a little bit of like a restlessness. My career was in big corporate environments, and I needed to do that for my family, for the insurance, for the stability. But I always felt really like itchy in there, like, I'm kind of bored. I want to do this. Can't we just try this? Do I really need to go through like a 6 month, like 900 decks later to try something new? It always frustrated me.
Matrix
Always.
Yoda the shit out of anything, right? Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was one thing where I was so excited to step out of that corporate environment and be like, I gave myself some time. I think we started like 6 months. Let's see if we can get this off the ground. And I just was so energized by owning my own time, owning my own day,
Yes.
owning my own research, information, my network, asking people questions that I wanted to know, not my
Mm,
boss or my boss's boss or whatever it was.
love that.
And that is just something that I've always had in myself. And I think that that was why I was excited about it.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's sort of the entrepreneur edge is like the confidence in knowing what you know and
Mhm.
also the excitement about what you don't know.
I love that. I love that so much. So confidence, experience, network, curiosity, and then there's the restlessness. And trying to. I have a lot of
Yeah.
clients who are I should, if this is beyond should, I should stay at Nike because it's Nike and I've got all the things. And what if I don't? And what if I don't? And so
Yeah.
I love that once we have the experience on our side, you see your professional equity, you see what you've got, you see what you've earned, you see you've got your stripes, you know what didn't work.
Yeah.
And then actually it's the going out and owning your own time and being in control and bringing it back to self, right? And it's like now yours as opposed to
Mhm.
giving it to the shareholders, as opposed to giving it to 20,000 other employees.
I think there's also a maturity in your career. Like, and I talk to a lot of younger women on my team about this. Like, when I first started out, I was always like a very serious, like sort of worker bee, worked really hard and stressed so much about every mistake. Oh my gosh, like I'm going to bring down whatever
Yeah.
Centrum
All of
supplements,
timing.
like all of timing because you know, sent the wrong email to the wrong person. And I think as you get older, especially starting your own company and being an entrepreneur, like you really got to roll with the punches and you really got to like big, bad stuff happens all the time.
Hmm.
And you need to be able to sleep at night. Like I don't
Yeah.
sleep at night for the really, really big things, but like
Right.
I can get through the smaller things now much
I
easier.
I appreciate that. So let's kind of continue on with this theme, and we'll get back to womaness in a minute and like what is going on with women and our bodies and our health. But let's stay on this theme of like this experience. You're now in midlife. We've talked about confidence, a time of reinvention. It's time to be
Mhm.
like, what do I need and want, and bringing that to fruition. So you've shared that becoming a co-founder required you. You shared this with me in our pre-call. Required you to completely rewire the way you saw yourself as a woman and a leader. What did that
Mhm.
transformation look like? What did you have to do? Because I think you struggled, didn't you?
Yes, I'm very lucky. I have a great co-founder. Sally's we're 5 years in, and we're really in a good place, and like we get along, and I'm so grateful for that. And
Mm,
that's a whole other conversation how to pick a co-founder.
okay.
But Sally was somebody I always looked up to. Like she was a few years older than me. She had a huge job at Target. Like when I first met her, I was like intimidated and
Mhm.
scared. And every time we met through the years, I was always a little bit like deferential to her and, oh, Sally, like she, big
Put her up on that
executive. Yeah, I
pedestal.
put her
Yes.
up on a huge pedestal.
Hmm.
And here we were going into business together and we were equals, like we divided the work. This is your work. This is my work. And I felt like at the beginning in particular, I both looked to her for approval. I'm like, am I doing okay? Am I doing this job okay? And also like deferred to her, like, oh, I'm thinking about doing this. Do you agree? Do and we had too much to. There were a few issues with this. One, we had too much to do for me to be waiting around for her to be weighing in on my side of the responsibility, and also I spent too much time worrying about what she thought and what she was thinking, and I was so used to getting like a review at the end of the year and getting like I always got, all the check marks, and I was looking to her to tell me I was doing a good job so I can
Exceptional.
feel good and
Yes.
keep going, which is just such a,
Well,
there's so many issues related to
right.
that.
I
But
mean, there's some rewiring that has to go on, and particularly needing approval. Some women, more than others, really have to be validated in such a way. So, yeah, I
yeah,
appreciate you naming that because I think it's a thing that we have to and get to work on ourselves. So, what did you
yeah.
do?
Well, I think it was definitely a few months in. Like it went on for a while. Like maybe even after the first year, and I found that I was like it was very hard, and I was really struggling. I wasn't happy because I was worried and thinking about this, and on top of all the other things. And I met an executive coach. I started talking to her about it, and I signed up for a bunch of sessions, and I couldn't at the beginning really place what was wrong. Like I couldn't figure out whether like it was I was like, is Sally the right partner for me? Is this the right thing I'm doing? And she was able to identify in hearing me talk about it that it was me owning this role and I was the one that needed to step up into this role and stop worrying about Sally. If Sally had a problem, she would tell me. And that I had to really figure out how to, be a leader, not look for approval, accept that I wasn't going to get feedback unless I asked for it from like people that worked for me. But it was a huge change in how I saw myself is in my relationships with Sally, my team, how they saw me, and then eventually how my team saw me. Because I think even they were a little confused at first. I'm like, do I report to Sally? Do I not? So there were a lot of things like that I had to change about myself. And this coach I worked with really, really did help. And it helped my relationship with Sally because I was no longer looking to her and she didn't have that responsibility to make me feel good every day, which that's not her responsibility.
I'm glad you used the word responsibility because I just written down you through this work, and it is work, y'all. I mean, you don't have to do it alone. So I love that you reached out and you didn't know what it was, and that's okay. Like a lot of clients come to us and like, I don't know what it is. I'm like, that's
Hmm.
cool. We'll figure out what it is. You just have to trust yourself that maybe she wasn't going to be the right partner, and then you were going to be like, well, I'd rather know now. Of course, she is the right partner, and what I heard through the work is that you took responsibility in the relationship. And that's what I really really appreciate the work you did is that, there's always two in a relationship. And then there is kind of, maybe you even had to, maybe you didn't do it overtly, but there was a redesign in your mind, or maybe you all actually had a conversation. I mean, did you ever out yourself to her, like, you know what, I've been acting small, I've been playing small. Maybe you had this conversation with yourself, or you actually have it with your co-founder and be like, you know what? I've not been taking full responsibility here. I'm going to step fully into the role. And this is what we encourage people always, is to redesign if you need to. But most importantly, what I heard was a redesign with self. What comes up
Yeah,
for you?
I I definitely, Sally and I have talked about a million things through the years.
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm. Yeah.
I'm definitely a more like emo like, I don't even know what the word is. Like, I'm probably more a little more self-aware than she
Hmm.
is,
Hmm.
just because of our personalities, where
Hmm.
I like talking about these things
Hmm.
probably more than she does. So
Talk it out.
I think for me, and I said to her, I've used these words with her. It's really helpful for me to talk about this with
Hmm.
you.
Yeah.
Um, and I think she's like, okay, we are in a place now where it's much more easy. It's much easier for us to talk about, like, how, like, if our frustrations or what's going on, but really, like, just really owning my relationship with her myself has really cleared a lot of the problems away. Like, I accept her for who she is, her strengths, her weaknesses. I can recognize my strengths and weaknesses. I'm willing to say to her, I will do literally anything on this piece of paper except for that. Like,
I love
I will
that.
not be good at that. And I think just being really way more
Const
honest with
and
each other.
constantly open dialogue. And, I often, it's a little bit of a woo woo book, but I recommend it to everyone. It's been on our reading list for the Murmuration Collective forever. But The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And one of them is to use your words articulately
Mm.
and to actually say what you will do. And we often use this line with our clients, like, here's what you can expect from me, and here's what I need from you. And so you're like, I'll do everything on that sheet but that. And so
Yeah,
then there's the, like, okay, well, who are we going to, because she's like, I'm not doing that. So since
yeah,
who is going to do it? Like, let's find it. Well, thank you
yes.
for sharing that, because I think what we hope for everyone who's listening is that you take responsibility in all your relationships, so that, I mean, you might have blown up this whole thing because your prefrontal cortex was hijacked,
Yeah,
because you had made up all these, you put her set on such a high pedestal, all these things. And then when you actually calm the prefrontal cortex, get the cortisol out, then there becomes creativity for you to step into this new way of leading, being with your team. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that moment and of vulnerability and, realness. So, what gave you the confidence and courage to walk away from what was a very successful corporate career and build something entirely new?
yeah. I think I had to leave Home Shopping Network. The brand I was working with was closing down, and
Mhm.
I was sort of like, okay, I'm at sort of a crossroads, and
Mm.
I could not stomach the idea of going to a new corporate job. I I I would have probably taken time. I probably would have taken time off, although I really, that wouldn't have been a good thing for me.
Mm.
I'm better at work.
Okay.
But as soon as, like, while I was leaving HSN, I was talking to Sally. We were considering doing this. I don't think she was quite ready to leave her job yet.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I was like, I am going to do this. I'm going to start, and then let's keep talking, and you'll join me when you're ready. But I almost, like, I made the decision, like, I cannot go looking for a job right now. Like, I just could not stomach another corporate job. I think because of everything I said before, like,
Right.
it made me really restless. I was sort of bored. I was like, I could do so much more. Like, the whole hierarchy of corporate jobs was
Yep.
just driving me insane. Like, having to wait so long, having to do all the decks and the presentations and the conference calls. Like, I just had kind of lost my patience. Yeah, maybe I was because maybe it was because I had, young kids at home, and, like, they were driving me crazy too, and, like, I feel like I had, like, was frustrated on all fronts, and
Right.
I was like, I can't do this anymore.
That is what I love. I cannot do this anymore. And I love the expression you've said like 3 times is I could not stomach it. And I honestly, I'm sure because I have clients who are addicted to LinkedIn and they are constantly scouring it. And there's this like this their brain again is hijacked. But what I heard from you is like, even if somebody were like, you know what, I hear there's a great C-suite position over at blah, blah, blah. And we have these moments where we're like, well, I mean, I could do it. I might, maybe I should do it, right? This is what it's
Mhm.
supposed to look like at this level as a 50-year-old. I'm supposed to be in that C suite doing these things, but you could not stomach it. So the body wisdom there, I'm sure actually, as you would hear those things, what would happen? Would you get a pit in your stomach? I mean, literally, how did it feel?
Like a pit, probably a pit in my stomach, or
Yeah.
like I should reach out, I should do this, and like I would be preparing for a phone call or preparing for an interview, and I was like, ugh, like I don't even want this job.
I do not want it. So the shoulds we shed. What do you want to do? What do you get to do? And then there's this exploration, as you said, with an entrepreneur and that entrepreneurial mindset of like, what is this? And that's the work that I love that you've done is to constantly check in with self. Like, and so what do I have? Oh, I have experience. So what do I have? I have a pretty vast network. What do I have?
Mhm.
What do I have in my wheelhouse? I refer to as our board of advisors that can help me bring this idea to fruition. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, I was also lucky that we had a real. I was very excited about the idea of
Mm,
Womaness. Like I was
yes.
excited about. There were so many elements of it that fit my own personal interests, whether it was like women's health, like a little bit of advocacy work in a way because we were advocating for women,
Mhm.
women at this time of their life.
Right.
It was, creating beautiful products, creating like efficacious products, talking to doctors. Like I liked doing the work. And so
Mm,
considering the fact that I felt so bored for so long at like my old other jobs and like just really restricted,
yeah.
here I was sort of like unleashed to do like all this research and talk to people and figure out, oh, can we do this? Can we do that? And how would I build this? What would it look
Mm.
like? Like,
Mm,
so I think in a way if I didn't have that, if I was like, I'd love to go do something on my own, but I don't know what the idea is,
yeah.
it would have been harder.
Right.
But like once we kind of landed on this, I was immediately excited and interested, which
Mm.
made it all a little bit easier for me.
We call that flow, right? When somebody is pulling from their core strengths, like, God given, universe given, doing the preferred skills, those that actually they like to do. So
Hmm.
the research, the connecting, those things. And then you align it with passion. Of course, there's values. Like, does it align with my core values and how I want to live my life at this phase? But that's flow. Strength, preferred skills, passion, and then values. Now,
Yeah,
I do have a lot of clients who have those strengths, preferred skills, and will find something that aligns with their values. But they're like, it could be anything, and I think that's okay too. Go find a co-creator who is so passionate, but that
yeah,
doesn't have your skill set, does not know how to bring it to life, right? And if you're actually, if you can get behind it, great. Of course, you need to get behind it, but you don't have to be like, some people are like, oh, I'm not like going to die on my sword for something. Well, somebody else is, and they need your help. So, right.
yeah,
And that's where I think going out and going to things like South by and listening and just listening and letting things fall onto you and settle into you and like, oh, wow, that's a really interesting idea. And being awake enough to see if anything jiggles a lock inside of you.
yeah. You don't have to think of it like I'm going to die on the sword for this. I thought of it at the beginning, and Sally did too. Like this is our job, and I'm going to give it a year. And then it was like I'm going to give it a year and a half, and it doesn't have to be the rest of your life. It doesn't have to be forever. And I think breaking it up in little pieces like that is also helpful, especially at the beginning, because what if it didn't work? What
Yeah.
if this wasn't an idea that resonated with people? What if we couldn't raise money? What if we couldn't this? Whatever it was,
Mhm.
I think it was helpful to think of it like this is my job right now. For 6 months, this is my job.
I love that. There is somebody out there who does want to die on their cross, but
Yeah,
they don't know how to get started. And you can just like get buy-in on it. And what I also love that you just said is some people have that vision of like what it's going to be like 15 years from now, but they can't get started. And
Yeah.
so, what I like your mindset is, I often work with visionary leaders who can't get started. It's like, let's break it down into smaller bite sized chunks, like 6 months to a year. Like, and
Yeah.
those are palatable. Those are like, oh, okay. And what I also love is, you know what? Failure. If it doesn't work, we sure as hell learned something along the way and we made all those connections. And then something else might come along that I've learned again, and I might be able to apply it more quickly to the next go. There is something here about women in our 50s, right? Or like, in our midlife, entering leadership and reinvention. Like, talk to me about the power of women at this time in our lives, specifically to create. Do you think there's something powerful about women in leadership and reinvention in this time in our lives?
I've thought a lot about this because it comes up a lot in what I do and the other women I meet.
Mm-hmm.
My only guess here, and I'm making a huge assumption, is that I think women in their like 30s and early 40s
Right.
are either really, really heavily invested in their career,
Mm-hmm.
or they're heavily invested in their career and they have children.
Mm-hmm.
One or the other, a lot of their brain space is taken up by these other things in their life, whether like big career, maybe you got married and you're like very invested in like an like a beginning of your marriage. If you've had kids, forget it, you're totally invested and your
Right.
brain space is really, really occupied. And I think when you start to get into your 50s, your career sort of like, you feel a little more confident, you're not as like, it's not as hard, you're not gunning for like the next big promotion maybe necessarily, or maybe you have a clearer picture of where you're going. If you have kids, your kids are older. If you're married, you've been married for a while, like something
Mm-hmm.
clears in your brain
Yes.
and a little bit of space is made for
Right.
something new. And I think the women I speak to, and this comes, like I said, this comes up a lot, something like a space opens and either you're like, I know exactly what I want to do and I'm going to go back to school and become a therapist, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to start a company, or you start to get that like, all right, what's next?
Mm-hmm.
Because you actually have a second to think about it.
Right.
And
Right.
that to me feels like a pattern I've seen a lot,
Same.
where just something, you get a little bit of brain space and all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait a second, I can reassess, I can take a deep breath and be like, is this really where I want to be? Is this what I want to be doing for the next 10, 15 years of my life? Or
Mm-hmm.
is there something else here?
And that's absolutely why we created the immersive retreats. We also can do it in coaching, but then you're kind of filling in like, you know, 8 hours of like creative time, like spread out over 6 months, jammed between some Zoom calls. I mean, some
Yeah,
women can do it and that's great. But that's why we created these immersive retreats where you can actually be like, but you have to be aware enough to be this like wondering, like, is this really what I want?
yeah,
Like, and somebody said to me the other day, it's like, oh, I finally have time to, we have this beautiful intake form that you get to, ladies, fill out when you come to our retreat. And the first thing is like, what have you been thinking about that lights you up? And sometimes women are like, holy shit. Like I haven't ever asked myself that because I've been giving and giving and giving. And
Mhm.
so this is where we create. I heard, you know, take an inhale, take a deep breath, pause to gain
Yeah,
clarity, and then let your body wisdom, your prefrontal cortex, like start to like be creative. And it's when we take you out of the chaoticness of your life and get you into this beautiful place surrounded by other women who are like psyched to figure it out, and we have a lot of fun along the
yeah,
way while we're doing it. And then what also we do is we hold the coaching for 6 months. The group comes together every month for 90 minutes and share checks in with each other. So you have accountability partners. Otherwise, it was just sort of like that was a fun weekend. But it's like, oh no, we really want you to do this. Like,
yeah,
this is a great time in your life to have impact on your family, your community, dare we say, the world. Like, we need women right now, I think, to really step into taking up more
mm.
space, to reinvent and be the change makers that we want to be in the world. Cause I'm not sure we got the right people running the ship right now. Yeah. Thoughts on that?
I wish more women were
Mhm.
finding their way, their path forward in taking leadership roles, whether obviously corporately, I'd love that, but that's a whole other
Right.
conversation.
Absolutely.
um, but sure, like starting companies, starting organizations, becoming more financially independent, like
Mhm.
all of these things will help women in the long run. And
Mm.
I think women in their 50s have the wisdom, the experience, the confidence to set a new path. I think maybe generations before us, women sort of like, went off into the sunset, I hate
Yeah.
to say,
No, it's true.
or they didn't take advantage of the powers that they have, I guess you could say. And I wish we had more women that we could turn to now that are really wanting to mentor us and help us and figure out kind of what this path looks like forward.
I agree. I wish we had more women to mentor us, but what I'm actually seeing is this beautiful collaborative, we're both 54. You're helping me out by coming on. I'm, wanting to get the word out about what you all have created. And I believe that we're mentoring each other, and it's sort of
Yeah,
this shoulder to shoulder. And so this is, a theme that I'm really noticing is like, go find other people, women, to riff with,
yeah,
brainstorm with, because you never know what happens when you get one or a couple of women together and, talk and brainstorm. And even if there's no intention of like
hmm,
perhaps an idea coming to fruition, it might just land itself squarely into that space.
yeah. No, that
Um,
I completely agree with. I feel like the women I've met within this community of like,
mhm.
I don't know what you call this community, midlife women,
Mm,
women's health, whatever it is, have been amazing and
mhm,
super
mhm,
supportive and really, and to your point, like either there to just listen to you
mhm.
or they're like, how can I help? What can we do? I'm doing this, you're doing that. How can we come together? And it sometimes it turns into something, sometimes it's just a much needed conversation.
Absolutely. Then it's an energy transfer and
Yeah.
it's feeling not so alone. But let's talk about women supporting women. And I want to go into the finances of this a little bit because this is definitely a theme that's been coming up this year more than ever. I think with the great transfer of wealth that we're about to see with, boomers passing on trillions of dollars, and 34 trillion is the number that everybody keeps bouncing around, and even to millennials and zillennial women. But you've talked a lot about how men are very quick to offer financial backing to their buddies, and really just kind of they're willing to take the risk as well. What have you observed about this dynamic that we as women could start to kind of step into a little bit more? What are you noticing?
I mean, this is a very tricky conversation.
Okay,
And so I'll tread lightly, I guess. What I have found, I have a small business. We've raised money. We've raised
right.
money 3 or 4 times. I've been very lucky. We've had great investors. I love, we are really lucky with the investors that are involved with Womaness.
Hmm.
I will, as just a anecdote, it has been easier when we talk to men than
Hmm.
women in terms of getting to the finish line faster,
Right.
whether it's a yes or a no.
Hmm.
They'll tell us no faster, they'll tell us yes faster.
Mm.
I find sometimes with women investors, it's a long, drawn out process. There's a lot of questions, a lot of back and forth, a lot of detail. And then whether oftentimes it's a no.
Hmm.
And it's really, women say to me all the time, like, oh, you have a women's health company and women in midlife, you must never talk to men. And they're often surprised that that actually isn't the case.
Hmm.
And I think there's a lot of reasons for this. I think one of the big ones is it's just history. It's
Right.
just a lot of men are more comfortable writing checks, they're supporting businesses. It's a little bit of a flex, I think, for men.
Yeah.
My favorite story, and I think I shared this with you when before we got on this podcast together, is we weren't raising that much money. We were raising about $2 million, and a friend of mine, a male friend of mine, said $2 million. That's a pass the hat around conversation, meaning he'd be with his guy friends and be like, "Hey, I'm working on this cool company, and everybody want to contribute?" And he's like, everybody takes out their checkbooks and writes a $50,000 check. He's like, "Can't you just ask your friends?" And I was like horrified. Like, I would never ask my friends. One,
Mm.
I'd be so like, just it would take so much for me to just like call my college friends and
Mm,
say, hey, you guys, like
same.
I'm working on this great company. Would you consider investing? Like I'm planning to sell it one day and you might make money. Like I'm not asking for a favor and I'm not asking for a handout. I'm asking for you to invest in something that could make you money. But it's
Mm,
just a completely different conversation, I think, for men and for women. Some
I
men,
agree.
some women and men in my life.
For sure. We are talking generally, and what I am hoping through a lot of these conversations, you're not the only one to say this, is that we just jiggle the lock a little bit on when maybe it's about risk, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there is, I think what I hope we get better at is assessing risk more quickly, trusting that, the women that we're talking to have experience, have
Mm-hmm.
worked for huge companies before, have the same knowledge, have the same, finger on the pulse of an epic moment that we need to capitalize on right here, right now. And so that's what I'm really hoping that we hear more of. I mean, when we were at South by, I was at the FQ Lounge, and did a little quick little mini Shark Tank, and so they had four people pitch, and it was a room full of women, and like, who wants to invest in this? And like, you could see everybody kind of like, very shy. And then this one woman was like, look, this is for fun. Settle down, relax. Like, we're not going to come and like corner you as soon as we're
Yeah.
done. But she's like, I have been here at South by all week. And she's like, I have gotten 10 investors for her idea. She's like, I've had only one woman come up to me and say that she was interested, but she wasn't sure.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, where are you all? She's like, you all, because you just gave me a huge round of applause. You were cheering and thumping and going crazy for my idea. And now you shrink back into the
Yep.
bleacher sheet seats. And so I just kind of feel like sometimes as women, we're waiting around for somebody else to invest in and build the future that we want, but we're not willing to take ownership in it. And so this is kind of why I thank you for treading lightly into this. I'm sure it's a very tricky conversation, but this is, I think, what I would like to awaken us into is, get involved, help create the future that you want to see.
Yeah. I've heard a few things on this topic. Women are really good at supporting candidates and causes. But
Mm.
what we need to be doing is supporting companies and businesses
Mhm.
in the spaces that you care about. So for
Yes.
instance,
Align with your
we're in the
values.
women we're in the women's health space.
Mhm.
Women tell me all the time, I can't believe we don't know more about perimenopause and menopause. We don't understand more about PCOS or whatever the issue is. There are so many companies out there trying to build brands and products and education around these issues. We need to be supporting these companies and these opportunities the same way we support the causes because
Exactly.
these companies are also making breakthroughs and they're getting the information out there for women sometimes in a more efficient way than the
Right. It's where
causes.
the science is. It's where the innovation is, where the money is, right? And
Yes.
so we need them to be involved in that. Right.
Yeah, and women have to realize like this is how generational wealth is created
Yes.
by taking risks, by investing in sort of risky things and having the big return instead of putting your money only away into your Fidelity account and the conservative slow build.
Right.
If you've built your career, you have some money tucked away, invest in companies that support causes you believe in because that will create more wealth for you and that will create more independence and
Mhm.
then it will kind of continue and then your kids and your kids kids can pass the hat around to their friends.
I love that. And
you
yes.
know I
Mhm.
think that's a huge piece of it is not just looking at it as like I said candidates and causes
Right.
but
In
where
companies.
you both give and receive at the same time.
I Say that one more time. Say it again.
Where can you invest where you give and receive at the same time?
We say that about our relationships when we're coaching with people. We say that about the environment you're surrounding with. Put yourself in a place that gives and where also you can receive.
Hmm.
I think this is incredibly powerful. And we often say, maybe some women aren't as big of risk takers, and so I also would translate that to like there's a fear that I might lose something. But then I talk about fear with my clients, and it says it just means you don't have enough information yet. So we're smart. We've gone to all the same schools. We've had the same experience. We would apply that to Procter and Gamble or Time Inc. or,
Hmm.
wherever else we work. So do the research. Do it
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah.
Remind yourself that you're smart as shit and be like, oh, this is not a risk. I mean, there may be a slight risk, but you actually have done your homework. You've done your homework on Michelle Jacobs. You know where she's been. You know what she's done. You know that you're passionate about women and midlife health. So this is what I want to
Yeah.
encourage women to do: is go get to the
Yeah.
beyond fear more quickly.
Yeah. And it might fail. The company might fail.
Sure.
And that's part of the risk. But you would have learned, like, and again, you're not investing your life savings. You're
Right.
investing something that you could live without, because that's what a risky investment is.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to learn so much. And then the next investment will be better. And then the next investment after that will be better. But it's getting involved and kind of getting quick about it. You're not going to get an answer by looking into the data more and more and
Yeah.
more
Right.
because you don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
That's part of what an emerging brand is, emerging company is.
And don't forget, you did that for your other companies that you worked for. You
Yes,
made risk assessments, but it
right.
wasn't your money. So you were like willing to take a bit of a risk. So do it for yourselves,
Yeah,
right? So that you get to receive it and not just hope that you get an excellence in your performance review and you might get 80% of your bonus or
right.
whatever, right? So this is great. So let's talk about Womaness and what this is, because this is, what you created is butting up against the cultural narratives around aging that, I was told about or not told about. I was in the dark when I came up on perimenopause. So what are the challenges? What are the things that you are trying to break up, bust through to help women know and be more fully in their power about their health at this age in our lives?
Yeah, there's a lot there too. So
Take it wherever you want.
when we started Womaness, it was very clear to us, like, we don't understand menopause. This is a brand to deal with that.
Right.
But what was so interesting, sort of sad, but really fascinating, is how little everybody
Right.
knows about menopause. And what we learned very, very quickly is the more we talked about menopause, the more
Mhm.
customers we lost, because women don't even know if they're in menopause or not.
Right.
Whether they want to be in menopause or not, that's a whole other conversation. Like, nobody wants to be. Everyone's
Right.
like, oh, no, I don't want to hear about it. But also, nobody knew the definition. 12 months without getting your period is the
Right.
definition of menopause. 9 out of 10 women I talk to don't know that. They
Mhm.
certainly don't know that perimenopause could be 10 years before you get to menopause, and that there are 32 symptoms plus related
Yes.
to it. So we started this brand thinking, oh, we're going to deal with this issue. But what we learned, and we really pivoted into talking about women in midlife, talking about women with hormonal changes, or
Mhm.
just talking about their symptoms. And it's great for us as a business that we figured that out and we
Mhm.
pivoted.
Right.
It's sad to me as a woman that, like, our sex education ends at pregnancy. We don't
Right.
even know postpartum. I mean, I've had two
Right.
kids. Like, I didn't even know what my postpartum life is going to look like, let alone perimenopause, menopause, and beyond.
Right.
You know, nothing, nothing. And
Mhm.
I don't care who you talk to. Like, maybe they know like one or two little sound bites.
We only know about postpartum depression. What I actually heard and what you just said is like, what is your life going to be like? What are the things that are going to happen to you physically? My
Yeah,
hip rotated out of joint. I was in a brace for 6 months. Like, nobody said that. Like, I thought I was
yeah.
going to have this beautiful little moment. But like, even like, how do you have to adapt your lifestyle, the way of thinking, and all the things? I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think when you ask me, like, what is Womaness, yes, we are a company that has products for women in midlife. Like I said, skincare,
Hmm.
sexual wellness supplements. We address the major symptoms of menopause, perimenopause, and all that's involved. But I do think just sort of the cultural issue around women not understanding their bodies at this time of their life
Yep.
is so huge. It's too big for us. Like sometimes Sally and I talk about that a lot. Like we jumped into something that was
Right.
way too big, and we
Mm.
didn't realize it because we
Mm.
both are sort of curious and researching and oh, we'll find a doctor, we'll figure this out.
Yeah.
No, there is no research, there is
Right.
no information.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it's just been a fascinating, like I said, interesting, fascinating, sad
Right.
experience.
Yeah. I I I appreciate that. And I'll just give an anecdote, a story of one, or actually when I'm beginning to do an intake with a new client, we do talk about who's on your board of advisors. And I talk about, like, buckets of people that support you.
Yeah.
And so I often say, who's your women's health doctor? Because in order for me to do this work with you, I need your prefrontal cortex and the vessel that is you to be in a open, vibrant space. I can't compete with low estrogen levels. And you just see them, you're like, they're like, well, I'm only 40. I'm only 39. I was like, you could be in a deficit in your with regards to your hormones, or something could be too high or whatever.
Mhm.
So have you gotten your hormones checked? And they're like, you need me to go get my hormones checked in order to do this work. I'm like, not just for me. I was like, for yourself. I was like, it's just good to know who you are, like, and at this phase of your life. And it actually might make you feel better. And actually, you may not need the coaching because you've equalized yourself. You're in the calibration that allows you to be able to manage. And as
Yeah.
startling for them. So if you're out there and you're in your whatever age of life, have you had your hormones checked? This is a great place to start. And then there's so much information on your website, which I love and adore. So it's not just products, it's a community. Talk to us about the community.
That's also evolved in the last 5 years as technology has changed. We
Mm.
started as a private Facebook group called the After Party, which still exists,
I love
but then
that.
it definitely morphs into more like our Instagram community, our TikTok community,
Hmm.
where we do more and more in real life events, which are huge and like so rewarding and so inspiring.
Hmm.
So the community exists like in different places, but I think what you'll find is like women talking about these issues and
Right.
asking questions, and hopefully we're able to answer them, or somebody within the community can answer it. But certainly, like our Instagram account, and I would still say like our private Facebook account
Hmm.
is, it's like I said, it's called the After Party, is really like a place where women talk about these things openly.
I love that. Don't you think that it's evolved a little bit from when you started, that more and more women are perimenopause, menopause curious, right? They're actually, I mean, like, I feel like we are talking about it more. And what I love about your brand and their products is making it accessible for all women. And how do you reach women in rural communities?
Maybe I'm naive in my own head, or I don't know what the words are, but we had a role in getting this conversation out there. I mean, we are a tiny little brand, and I know that, but we did get a lot of press early on,
Mm.
which was great for us. But we were on lots of different TV shows. We had tons of press, and we got a lot of coverage, and it was one of the first times people were starting to talk about it. And then
Yes.
other, like, some celebrities jumped on, and there was some other brands that
Yep.
launched into the space. So I do think there's like a change in the way people are thinking about the category, as
Hmm.
the category of women midlife, menopause, however you want to say it. Um, so that was one piece where I think there
Right.
is sort of a cultural moment happening.
Hmm.
I think millennials, who traditionally have been more open about their bodies, been more curious about IVF, pregnancies,
Hmm.
miscarriages, endometriosis, PCOS,
Oh,
all of
God,
those
yes.
things are beginning to age into perimenopause and starting to ask the questions and demanding more of their doctors. So I
Yes.
think that's been a huge cultural change as well.
Right.
But for us, yes, reaching those women outside of like New York, San Francisco, LA
Yes.
is super important.
Well, I
And
think getting into Walmart
yeah,
and getting to where they are and having them actually, whether they're walking down the aisle and just being curious, and then there is the community, there is education on your platform, which I really appreciate, is pretty powerful. And I
yes,
for one want to say thank you for being a part of this awakening and this powerful way that we get to be in this midlife, from a, there's a long way to go. I know that. And we get to be part of that if we, again, invest in the companies,
yeah.
talk about it. Investing into politics and into causes is absolutely 100% a way to do it. And
Yes,
investing in the companies that are going to bring the products that are going to make us healthier, stronger,
yeah.
so that we can do this work.
And one other thing I would add is demand that your doctor be better educated.
Yes.
One thing we said, like, I always get asked, like, what's the one thing you would recommend for women? And it is always find a doctor
Mhm.
that is that understands women. A lot of women stick with their like obstetrician
Mhm.
through the rest of their life,
Right.
and you might have to switch doctors. You might have to find a doctor that understands menopause, understands perimenopause. Don't have a doctor say to you like, "Oh, you don't need this. You don't need to be on estrogen. You don't need to get your blood work done." No, if you want these tests done, you should be able to have a doctor do these tests for you. It's perfectly
And if
reasonable.
somebody says that to you, I would just then, this is where the curiosity mindset goes, is to give yourself permission to say, "And how do you know that about me?"
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
nothing externally that is giving that doctor the cues that I don't need it. Nothing.
Yeah. Most doctors have, people have said an hour of training, whatever, a very
Right.
limited number of hours of training on post fertility
Mhm.
women's health.
Right.
So it is very understandable for you to say to your doctor, like, are you trained in this?
Right.
Do you know about this? Because if not, I can go somewhere else, or please look into this for
Yes.
me.
This goes back to responsibility. You took responsibility for your leadership role, you taking responsibility for relationships in your life. We have to take responsibility for our health, because really, frankly, the world gave up on us for about 40 years and now we're demanding it. So, Michelle, I'm filled with gratitude for your time here and you spending just a moment of your wisdom with us. I do close with a couple of quick questions that I love to just ask for you. So, like, if I were to say, what do you hope women begin to give themselves permission to become during this midlife? What would you say?
And we just sort of touched on it, but I would reiterate, don't just settle. Like, don't just say, oh, this is just the way it is now. My mom was like this, and this is the way it's going to be. Like, no, like the world is different. Like, if you enjoy or you want a more active, both physically and mental life, make sure you have the right doctor. Surround yourself with the right people. Try new things. Be curious about the world around you. It is certainly not an end, but it could be a beginning. And look at it that way versus, oh, I'm 50, this is it, and you do not need to be thinking like that.
Absolutely. We have 40 more years, 50 more
Yeah,
years. I don't know. Longevity, it's a thing that's helping us live longer, hopefully healthy, and well as we live longer. And what do you hope most women let go of after this conversation? Is there one that it kind of goes into what you just said, but is there a should you could bottom line?
just anything status quo.
Mm.
I don't need, it doesn't have to be like, nothing has to be like this. Nothing is set in stone. You can always rethink things. It's scary, it's hard. There's lots of I should nots, but try to find the path forward and bring some new energy into your life.
New energy. Well, you've given me some great energy for my day. It's been a wonderful hour. Thank you so much, Michelle, for being
Oh, thank
here.
you.
And I look forward to watching where you to evolve this amazing company. And yeah, we're gonna be along for the ride. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. This was great.
Thanks, Michelle. Wow, that was a great episode with Michelle Jacobs from Womaness. Here's my top takeaways from what we talked about that were peppered throughout. And I think the number one thing is, as women in our midlife, we get to have active and physically healthy lives. So go out and find the team of doctors and the resources that you need to start living the second part of your life with vibrancy, because midlife could be the beginning of your boldest chapter yet. And let's invest in the companies that align with our values. Women, we need to invest more into the change that we want to see in the future. And more than likely, you'll advance your portfolio along the way. So, women, we need to invest more into the change we want to see. And the should that we'd like you to shed is to shed the status quo in your life. Take responsibility for creating this one life that you've been given, and let the second half of your life be so vibrant and healthy, and you have resources and the ability to do that now more than ever. So I will see you on the other side of that should and any other should you're willing to shed, so that you are your most authentic and vibrant selves. I will see you on the next episode of Beyond Should. Thank you so much and take care. Have a great day. Bye. Beyond Should is creatively supported by a team of dynamic women. Thank you to our executive producer, Lauren Lagrasso, our producer, Daniela Silva, our marketing manager, Esty McInnes, and our TMC curriculum design director, Katie Craig. Without these women, we would not be able to bring you this dynamic content. Thank you. Thank you for listening to another episode of Beyond Should, just one of the many ways we are working to support women from all walks of life. And we know personally, and from what our clients are sharing with us on the daily, that this is a dynamic and challenging time we are living through. And if you are feeling frustrated or out of control with your current work situation or life in general, and feel like something is just waiting for you, just beyond your reach or clarity, but you can't put your finger on what it is, then perhaps you might consider taking on a coaching engagement with us at the Murmuration Collective. We are professionally trained and certified leadership, career, and life coaches. We support women like you to wade through the confusion and find what they are truly seeking in the next chapters of their personal and professional lives. Our contact details are in the show notes. We look forward to meeting you, hearing your story, and seeing how we might be able to support you further. Be well.